All right. We have so much to talk about. We need to keep moving. Let's move on to the world of college football. Real quick, shout out Washington State. They had a bye this week. No action. But I do believe they climbed 2 spots in the rankings from 22 to 20.
Last time I saw it was 20. I'm looking at ESPN right now. It says 21. But they're low 20s, basically.
They're currently ranked 20 in the nation.
Okay.
The New AP poll.
Gotcha.
Yeah, Colorado is 21. So, yeah, maybe they rose 1 or 2 spots. Love that on a bye week. It's that time of the year. Teams are losing.
Yep.
They've got Utah State coming up this Saturday as they continue their Mountain West conquest. And still, it's nice to already be at 20, man. 4 more games, 4 more wins, 12 is the number. And every day I'm feeling a little bit better about it because, 4 more wins. Some of these top 20 teams are going to take 1, 2, 3 losses in these last 4 weeks. Maybe 3 is an exaggeration. A lot of these teams are going to take 2 losses in these last 4 weeks, and it's just going to help Washington State's chances. So, big Utah State game, but they're big home favorites. They got a 90% win probability, so don't blow it. Don't blow it, Cougs.
Yeah, which, they're known to do sometimes, as Wazoo does, but...
not this year. Not Mateer, baby.
Not this year. We're rooting for them. I feel like it's going to be closer. Like, take those 20.5 points if you're betting on this game, which don't bet on this game. But if you are 20.5 points for Utah State, like, take that. Yeah. I will say that at some point we will have to have the discussion on Wazoo will likely be a fringe playoff team. Like, I think the committee might actually have a reasonable discussion to be made for Wazoo, even if they win out, like to not be in the playoff just because of their strength of schedule and there's
quality of wins,
SEC teams and all that kind of stuff. Like, they're not a group like Power 5 or I guess Power 4 team that's going to win. Like, Boise State is probably going to win the Mountain West. So I just think there's going to be an argument there to be made for Wazoo to not make the playoff, even if they're sitting at 11-1. So
yeah, and the real bummer is like you almost wish they just didn't play Boise State because an undefeated season, even if your best win is against UW, is a stronger case. We've seen that with like Cincinnati and the like, where it's like they didn't really play anybody, but they're undefeated. That ring has so much power to it, as opposed to a one-loss team. Their best hope is that Boise State ends up in the top, 6 or 7 in the nation.
Yeah.
And then, they can say that they have one
and
great
they take another chance. They go 12-5 matchup and redo.
Yeah, they need what they really need, to your point, is some SEC mayhem because the Big Ten teams that are going to make it are already pretty secured. We're going to get 4 teams, out of the Big
4,
Ten with Indiana. But the SEC is the place where it's like a lot of the teams between 8 and 25 are 2-loss SEC teams, and we need them to get to 4-loss SEC teams because no committee in their right mind has any right putting a 4-loss Ole Miss in over a 1-loss Wazoo. When the whole point of expanding this was to get more teams with a real, argument. And it's like,
for sure,
nobody wants to see a 4-loss Ole Miss team.
Nobody wants to see the SEC playoffs. That's just
correct.
Like we got to move on.
We literally have the SEC tournament for that exact reason. Let's get something else in here, and a little West Coast representation, even if the strength of schedule is low.
Yes.
Okay, let's talk UW-USC. This was a fun game. Tell me your thoughts.
UW-USC, I think what it really came down to was UW was able to get stops in the fourth quarter. Like, that's their offense didn't perform great. They really relied on Jonah Coleman, which is what we've been saying they should be doing for the entirety of the season, basically. And they finally did it and finally beat what was a pretty mediocre USC team. So I don't know how well that will go in most games, but for them to secure this win is pretty big. Obviously, most of their scoring came in that first quarter, and they got a little stymied in the second half. But they were able to hold off the USC rally, didn't allow any points in the fourth. And that was all they needed, man. It was a good home win for this Dogs team.
Yeah, I think my biggest takeaway is the defense really showed up in the fourth, and the defense it's like so anathema to our understanding of UW, particularly coming out of last season.
I'm sorry. What word did you just use?
Anathema? Get a dictionary, bro. Get a thesaurus. I'm not here to educate your ignorant ass. But we're so used to this UW offense being miles ahead of the defense. This year, my hot take is I think the UW defense is equal to, if not greater, as an asset to winning games than the UW offense. I just think, they've been really good at bend not break. They've been really good at clutch, timely turnovers and stands. Obviously, 3 interceptions this game against USC, who was just hucking the ball all over the field. And, they weren't perfect. They allowed Woody Marks to run pretty roughshod over him, almost 6 yards a carry. And Miles Moses had 50 attempts passing the ball, which was a good explanation for 3 picks. But the 3 interceptions were a huge part of this. And then obviously the goal line stand at the end. I mean, they had 2nd, 3rd, 4th and goal on the goal line essentially to beat this UW team. And the defense stood up. They stood up straight and they stopped them. So I was really impressed by the defensive game plan. Kind of a lapse in that 3rd quarter, allowing 2 straight touchdowns, which got USC back in the game. But, while Will Rogers was really struggling to consistently move the sticks, it was the defense that, came up and kept getting them good field position and the like that. So I just wanted to shout out the defensive dogs.
For sure. Carson Bruner, obviously, with the 2 interceptions in this game, huge for him. He's been really good all season. He's going to be a nice, kind of mid NFL draft prospect, I think, like mid rounds. And I really want to touch on the fact that this UW defense, we talked about it early in the season, their pass defense has been so good. And I think this was the kind of game where USC is not a very great pass or rushing offense. And so you can see, they were more efficient running the ball, and that's the issue with UW's defense is they really aren't that great against the run. But when USC is passing the ball 50 times in a game, you are able to get those turnovers. You're able to get stops, which was great for this UW team. And a really, honestly, just a good matchup for them, I think, all things considered. So,
and they scheme it well, too. If you look at this UW defensive line, it's not what it's been in years past in terms of size and strength. And it's I guess we could overcommit with linebackers to get the yards per carry down from, 4.5 to 3.5, and then allow people to throw all over us, or we could allow that kind of rushing, get some lucky plays to get to 4th down, let teams chip away down the field, but then stop them when it really matters. And I think it's, considering the personnel, it's a really well schemed defense. I was impressed.
Good job by young Belichick.
Belichick too, electric boogaloo. Offensively, Will Rogers is regressing. That's my big take.
100%.
It seems like every game over the past 5 games, he has, if not gotten worse, stayed the same, and he's just kind of been taking a stairway down. 262 yards on 40 passes, 60% completion, no touchdowns, no picks. At least he didn't turn the ball over, but I'm glad we leaned on Jonah Coleman. As you noted, we've been begging for it, and it worked. 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. Congrats, Jonah. But Rogers just didn't blow me away. He was really focused on Giles Jackson and Denzel Boston, which is hypothetically good, but I'd like to see him spread the ball out a little more than he did. And the efficiency is just too low for a guy who we're asking to essentially game manage. I want to see that up over 70.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think he's making a lot of first read passes and just kind of hoping that guy's open.
Sure.
Which is as a game manager, obviously you're just trying to get through your reads, but he doesn't seem as confident in the pocket, and that could be because this UW line is pretty lackluster. He's probably under pressure pretty frequently, and that has been an issue all season. And I think the later we've gotten, the better the defensive lines we've been playing against. This was kind of a break in the level of talent that we've seen on the defensive line against us, and so that was probably nice for him to just be able to sit back for at least a second and a half and not have to scramble, because he's really a pocket passer. A lot of college quarterbacks nowadays have the ability to move, but he is similar to Michael Penix Jr. in that way. If he just wants to sit in the pocket and throw, obviously doesn't have the arm talent, but it is what this UW team was built around last year, and it's just been weird to see such a huge regression from the focal point of the offense, but it's bound to happen. We were a national championship contending team last year. I think our expectations now are a little higher than they would be, all things considered. This guy he might be the step down from Jake Browning. Jake Browning was really, really good, but he was really a system give the ball to John Ross at the 20 yards downfield, let him beat guys. Like, he was not an amazing quarterback.
He's also coming in, I guess he's following his head coach, but it's, kind of a different situation. No, I'm sorry. I'm backwards. He's not a Utah State guy, is he?
No, that's you're thinking of basketball.
Yeah.
He came from Mississippi State.
Mississippi State. Thank you. But yeah, so, first year in a new system. He's still a college guy. He's still a kid. It's not like an old veteran quarterback coming in. So, yeah, we're probably a little unfair on him. My expectations were just pretty sky high.
Yeah.
And he started the season so good. He was doing such a good job not turning the ball over and making timely throws. And I just feel like he's either turning it over or he's not being efficient, and it's not what we're looking for from him. So anyway, not to get on his case, I still like Will Rogers. Let's talk a little bit about this Penn State game.
A little bit of a scary matchup here.
Yeah. Now, obviously, UW at this point playing for pride. Give me your thoughts, because I do have some thoughts about this game.
Okay, so I was looking at these two teams, and statistically, I feel like I say this every week. I think I say this literally every week, but these two teams have the same stats. And like, even UW might even have some better stats looking at their passing yards, rushing yards, total touchdowns, all that kind of stuff. The one thing that I've seen that Penn State is better at is spreading the ball out when they run. Like, their running game is built on the backs of a couple players instead of UW's one guy in Jonah Coleman. And so that's my main concern, is like, these two teams are relatively evenly matched, except for in the run game. And I think we'll see a lot of the run game from Penn State and them just coming at us for 4 straight quarters. It might be pretty low scoring. So maybe if you're betting this game, take the 13 points. But I think it's just going to be Penn State running the ball down UW's throat the entire game. If I'm being real with myself. If I was being hopeful, I would say, hey, UW can match up well offensively because they can pass the ball. Denzel Boston is a much better receiver than Warren on Penn State. But I think it's going to be much more of a slow, methodical demolishing by Penn State.
Yeah. Here's my counter. And that's well said. And I want to lead saying Penn State is favored in this game for a reason, and I think they will beat the University of Washington. Here's the counter. Penn State is ranked number 6, and I don't understand why. They're a one-loss team without a single good win on the year. They have played West Virginia, trash. Bowling Green, trash. Kent State, trash. Illinois, 3-3. UCLA, trash. USC, trash. Wisconsin, 3-3. And then they lost to Ohio State. We are, as far as teams they have beaten, as good as any of the teams they have played. USC took them to overtime. So I think UW is going to be able to play with Penn State. I would not be shocked. I've already written off the Oregon game in the final week. Not only is Oregon way better than us in every aspect, but there's also, we beat them twice last year. Like, they are going to absolutely crush us.
Yeah, they're going to put us in the dirt.
I don't care what the spread is. I'm taking Oregon. It might be the first triple-digit D1 loss we've ever seen. But I don't think Penn State's way better than us. I think they've had a very light schedule. I think they're overrated. They scored 13 points against Ohio State, and 7 of them were on a pick 6. So that tells you what kind of offense Penn State's been able to run. And I also just think that this is a classic. Penn State's rest of their schedule is a joke. They play us, Purdue, Minnesota, and Maryland. If they lose to UW, they're out of the college football.
I think they're out of the playoff, yeah.
They have to be. They haven't beaten anybody. Wazoo's got better wins than this team. And yeah, we could play major spoiler to Penn State's season with this upset. 2, everybody wants to bounce back after the Ohio State loss. Oh, they're going to come back angry. Maybe there are just like some schematic issues that they have that we'll be able to look at that tape and exploit. And 3, this stuff happens. College football loves an upset. This strikes me as a classic. Nobody's paying attention, and suddenly Penn State went from, ranked number 3 in the country to not being in the playoff anymore. Once again, I think Penn State's going to win, but all the seeds are here for a season-spoiling upset by UW here.
Penn
State's not that good.
Yeah, I hadn't looked at Penn State's schedule. I just kind of written them in as the number 6 team. But yeah, considering and we've talked about this previously, it's like all of the good Big Ten teams just haven't played each other enough. Like, Oregon's got their one big win in Ohio State, but they haven't really played anybody else tough. Penn State's played Ohio State once. and they lost that game. And then there's like Indiana, who's 8-0, but I think we were like their toughest opponent in the season so far. They play Ohio State, I think, either this week or next week. And I think we'll see something real from Indiana. Or we'll see if Indiana's real, sorry. And I just think it's one of those cases of like, oh yeah, you've got a bunch of what seems like unbeaten, powerhouses in the Big Ten, where it's really, it's a lot more like Oregon and Ohio State and the rest of the conference. And so Penn State might be a step down. Now, like I said, I would take the Huskies plus 13 in this game just purely by the scheme of how I think things are going to play out. No matter what, they have a chance to win. I like where you're coming from with the strength of schedule of Penn State and Washington. Coming off a win might feel like riding high after a big one.
If Rodgers is perfect, they're going to win the game. How's that?
If Rodgers plays really well, they can win. They haven't won a game away from home this season. So that is the one thing that is concerning because Penn State, has a home crowd. Like they're very present there.
Very real. And they're going to be fired up too after the home loss to Ohio. Yeah.
So we'll see about this game, but you did get me more excited. I kind of sat up in my chair a little bit when you were saying those things about my boys.
That's why I do what I do. That's all it was for.